guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
What we're seeing in Memphis is an atrocity. Chris Finch, not only did you leave Karl-Anthony Towns in game one in foul trouble, where he only played 24 minutes, and you left him in the game with 3 fouls where he got his fourth in the first half. What are we doing? And then you blow a 21-point lead. They go on a 21-0 run the following couple games later. You don't call a timeout. And then last night, entering the fourth, you're up by 12. You can't hold on to the lead. So I agree with what you're saying, Russo, to a degree, that Minnesota should be up in this series.
Oh, Jay Will.
Judd, what are you showing?
Jay Will going on.
Chris
there.
Finch enjoying the ball game last night. Just getting a drive-by from Jay Will while he's trying to enjoy the Twins game.
Jay Will is 100% spot on. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday, by the way, gentlemen.
Reckless Speculation.
It's draft day. It's Reckless Speculation Thursday. To all who celebrate, it's a great day.
It's a wonderful day. Yeah, so anyway, I saw, you tweeted the photo of Finchy at the game last night. I was trying to figure out who he was with, but he was in the Champions Club.
Wow.
I'll be over at practice in about
he's not
90
committed.
minutes. I'll ask him how that experience was, but
He's not committed.
Jay Will
He should be in the film room. Why is he at a Twins game?
is spot on. You think about it. The Wolves led for most of game one, most of game 3, most of game 4, most of game 5. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you wanted to play that game out, the series should be over at this point.
They've won 2 games, and then in the other games, they've had a 26-point lead and a 13-point fourth quarter lead. And they're losing in this series going into game 6.
Yeah, it was, 92-78 or 91-78, 9.5 minutes to go. It was 11 with 6:45 to go. Dylan Brooks finally makes a 3 in game 5. Couldn't make a shot all night. Makes a 3 to make it 99-91. I painfully, until about 2 a.m. the other night, as I was trying to catch up on Better Call Saul, I went back, DVR'd the game. I went back and watched every Wolves possession after the Brooks 3 made it 99-91. I disagree with Finchy, who said post-game, this loss was all about rebounding. Sure. Was that some of it? Yes. Memphis 8 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. Brandon Clark alone.
7, right?
7 offensive rebounds. By the way, going back a few years, Gerson Rosa thought his arms were too short. That might be something we get to with maybe some of these guys that might go 12 or might not go 12, or if the Vikings move backwards tonight. That Brandon Clark had too short of arms. Zarko Durasic, who's now back in the Wolves front office, he was on the Clark bandwagon a few years ago at pick 11. That was before the Wolves jumped up, grabbed Jarrett Culver, but his voice wasn't quite loud enough. But back to game 5, where I disagree with Finchy, yes, rebounding was part of it, but go back and watch every Wolves possession, offensive possession, from the point after Brooks made that 3. Lots of hero ball, lots of Anthony Edwards holding the ball 8, 9, 10 seconds. We think about with 20 seconds left, the horrendous decision by D'Angelo Russell. No timeout, although Finchy, I guess, keeping that timeout, drew up the great play that resulted in the Ant 3 to tie the game. You know, but even the decision to have Edwards guarding Ja last possession, Anthony Edwards had 5 fouls. So I don't know what Edwards was thinking, gambling for the steal. Like, what if he commits a foul, the game goes to overtime? No Anthony Edwards in overtime. But I don't think it was all rebounding. There were so many horrendous possessions after that Brooks 3.
Well, let me zoom out because there's so many things here, and we want your take on all of them. But let's zoom out to 30,000 feet. If you were to tell me before the season, all right, they're going to win 46 games, they're going to beat the Clippers in a play-in game, and then they're going to go at least 6 games against Memphis, and we don't know what's going to happen now. I actually think there's a decent chance they win Game 6, but we'll see what happens. Take it or you don't know. You don't know how the first 5 games played out, but you know that they're going to win 46 games, beat the Clippers in a play-in, and then they're going to be the 7 seed, and they're going to go to at least a 6 game against Memphis. I would say, yes, sign me up.
Absolutely,
Success.
sign me up.
But then when you watch the first 5 games, and I think the Wolves have every bit the talent, if not more, than Memphis has, but they keep firing rounds of bullets into their feet in these games. The way that the series is playing out is really disappointing from all the angles that you just mentioned. So I guess my question to you is, How are you sort of digesting how this has played out now that you know how these 5 games have looked aesthetically so far?
It's both. It's already a successful season in my mind. When you win 46, when you win that playing game, when you take the second best team, at least in the regular season, right? The second is Memphis, the second best team in the league? No. But in the regular season, they were better than any team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Second best team in the league. You take them to at least 6 games. I'm with you, by the way. I'm planning as if the Wolves win tomorrow night. I just told you off, Mike, I'll be in Memphis for Channel 5 for my TV duties. I am planning as if I will be in Memphis on Sunday.
It's going to be John Morant's dad, Usher, and Doogie all dressed alike, just in the front row. It's going to be great.
That was epic the other night. Usher next to T. Morant.
It's hilarious. They wore the same sunglasses. They wore the same shirt. It's amazing.
T. Morant is fantastic. Watching him during games is so much fun.
Yeah, that guy is loving life, man.
Trash
He's got
box fans. It's just great.
Well, so I'm at Game 4 on Saturday night, and where my media seat was right off the court, but more to the left. If you've ever been to Target Center, by the Lexus Club entrance. So T. Morant went back there a couple times. There were fans shouting stuff at him, but then a couple wanted to take some photos with him. He was fully engaged. Super entertaining guy. But yeah, I'm planning as if I will be in Memphis for a 2:30 game on Sunday. I did get an email from our programming people here at KSTP. It will be a 2:30 game on Sunday. If you missed it, 8 o'clock start time tomorrow night, Target Center for Game 6. But 2:30
By the way, real
Sunday, ABC.
So last night, I had a couple Surleys last night, not going to lie.
All right, well, while you cue that up, let me finish your inquiry.
Hold on.
Okay,
No, this is a quick aside. It's a quick aside. So Judd sends a text last night at 11:36 p.m. And Judd's text just said, and I had gone to bed at this point, but Judd's text says 8 p.m. Friday. And I remember like waking up at like midnight or something, and I remember looking at the text and I was like, okay, the previous texts were about what time are we going to do Chip this week on, like Chip at noon this time and whatever. And then Judd says 8 p.m. Friday. And I thought, oh, Chip's going to join us at 8 p.m. on Friday? And I just went back to bed. And then I woke up, in the morning. Oh, he meant the Wolves game time on Friday.
I love that you have your cell phone like right next to your bed on
It's
the
actually
nightstand.
on my forehead.
You're Jay Glazer. You're Adam Schefter.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, mine's next to my bed every night.
Mine's always by me.
Yeah, it's got to be by me.
Well, mine is my alarm too.
Yeah,
so I guess
same.
you could
Okay,
say,
that's fair.
put
All right.
some people put the alarm in a place where you have to get up physically and
That's
go.
a load of crap. I don't understand why
agree.
people do
Can't
that.
That's BS.
No, that's a fair comeback. So anyway,
Sorry, go ahead.
to finish your inquiry to me, so already a successful season, but when you are the only team in NBA history to blow 2 fourth-quarter double-digit leads in the same series, how do we ignore that?
Yeah,
You
it's
can't.
tough. It's really tough.
We don't.
And it's a
We don't.
reminder, this roster is still not complete.
No,
Is D'Angelo Russell here next year? He is contractually, but
1 year left. That's a nice little expiring for someone though.
yes. Well, who's making the decisions? I can tell you, Sachin Gupta will be in the mix, but he has to win Alex, Mark, Glenn over. This is not promised to him. I still hear the Elton Brand's team, number 2 guy in Philadelphia. Could they bring in a more dynamic personality? Clearly, Gupta has a lot of really good traits, right? But personality is not one of them. He's not omnipresent. He's
Hey,
not
Doogie.
front and center. He doesn't like that role. Yes.
Dukes, here's what I like, and here's where this franchise is about to change. And so, I think that the season is a success, but I think the most important thing is we are learning a lot right now because these are high stress, high intensity games where you really get to see personalities and faults. And let me give you the personality thing that I see that I think, and Phil is going to love this one. And I have not broached this previously, but I've seen it now. And I think you saw it as well. And this is where Gupta might be in trouble. Watching Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie react in games and when things go well, and probably more importantly, when they don't go well. Glenn's been sitting in that seat for a long time across court. And Glenn never really changes. Like his frustration, you might be like, oh, I think Glenn's smirking. That must mean he's upset. Or, oh, Glenn's smirking. Maybe he's happy. Alex Rodriguez, during the course of the great meltdown of Game 3, walked out. He just walked out. He was red. Mark Lowry lives and dies with this team right now. I'm just telling you, things are about to change, and this might be good, it might be bad, but it's going to be a shift because decisions are going to be made based far more on, I really like Sachin. He might come to our house for a piece of pie.
Potato salad.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care.
Lasagna is really
my point is we are now
Becky's lasagna.
Becky, Glenn, I don't give a damn. The point is we're about to see, I think, decisions made basically on how people feel about the team, not a decision that would translate to, well, this is what I did at my paper company, so I guess it'll work for the Wolves. And I think that's really going to be an interesting dynamic because it's going to be very different.
One thought on D'Lo here, because I agree. I don't think you just run it all back. You definitely need another big. You need some rebounding, but and whether it's A-Rod or Lowry having influence, I think D'Lo had a great season compared to some of the other seasons in his young career. But the one thing he lacks, especially in crunch time, is self-awareness. He thinks he is Kobe Bryant with 15 seconds to go. And everyone needs to, regardless of how the game has flowed to this point, regardless of the fact that I've scored 12 points or fewer in 4 of the 5 games, and I'm shooting 32% in the series, and Cat is white hot in the fourth quarter, it is my turn to take a contested fadeaway 2-point jumper with 15 seconds to go because I think I'm Kobe Bryant. Dude, your job in that spot is to find someone else an open look by facilitating the offense. If the ball then swings back to you and you're open, cool, take the shot. Why are you forcing that shot? The team led the NBA in offensive, points per game this season, not because of hero ball, because of ball movement. So for him to do that late in these games, it just shows almost like a checkmate lack of self-awareness for me. I can't justify giving him $30 million a year or more on another max contract of some kind. So
you can't pay him $30 million or more on an extension. Let's not forget, let's go back to September, Media Day. All the craziness of that particular day, that was, 24 hours after the Rosas stuff happened, or maybe it was even less than that, but it was craziness at the end of September. Mm-hmm. So this was lost somewhat in the shuffle, but when D'Lo met with us at Media Day, he made a comment, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but alluded to this being a contract year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what do you mean? You're under contract for the 22-23 season. What do you mean this is a contract year? Well, because he is extension eligible this summer. So he always viewed this as a contract year because he fully expects a contract extension this summer. You cannot pay him the money he is seeking. Now, for the most part, during the regular season, he was their best clutch player. But the way he has played in this series,
bad.
And he was unbelievable against Memphis in the regular season. But guess what? Dillon Brooks missed all those games. Dillon Brooks is a good defender, all right? He's been pretty much a no-show for the most part in this series, right? He's had glimpses, was okay, specifically, Game 3 or Game 4 early. But for the most part, he hasn't been good, right? But, when we know, as you're watching Game 5, the clock's ticking down. He's dribbling it. I'm screaming at the TV, Finchy, call a timeout.
Finchy.
You need to. You can't let D'Lo dribble, then take that fall-away shot. Yeah. And so you're right.
No self-awareness.
No self-awareness.
By the way, so he has played 10 playoff games in his career because there was a 5-game series 3 years ago with Brooklyn. Brooklyn had that pop-up season, and he was very good that season. But he's played 10 playoff games. He shoots 35% in the playoffs. I'm sorry, 34%. He shoots 34% in the playoffs. Now, 10 games, is it the biggest sample? No, but dude, 10 playoff games, you're shooting 34%. Why are you taking that shot? Lack of self-awareness. Imagine I was texting with a buddy who he works in radio in a different market, but loves the NBA. And he was just ripping D'Lo to me via text. How can you put up with this as a Wolves fan? I'm like, I don't put up with this as a Wolves fan. But he said, Jalen Brunson's a free agent. Imagine, I don't know how you'd make it work financially, but imagine, and again, how you'd make this work, I don't know. But imagine a guy like Jalen Brunson and what he's done with the Mavericks, or somebody that fits more into a team scheme and doesn't shoot 34% and keep firing shots in those moments. What else could you do with $31 million, I guess, to make this team better than where it could go with D'Lo and his lack of self-awareness?
Well, I mean, you'd have to take back money, though, in any trade. Mm-hmm. So do you look at the possibility of bringing in a different guard that maybe has multiple years left? So maybe there's some team out there that says, you know what? We'll live with D'Lo 1 year. We'll give you this guy, this contract. He's got multiple years left. So in that instance, the Wolves don't then have the cap space to make a move on Jalen Brunson. Plus, I think about his dad's history here. You know, that's interesting. I know that doesn't have a lot to do with Jalen, right. But I think about that when you bring up the name Jalen Brunson. Heck, I'd love to see Tyus back here.
He's evolved quite a bit. He's become kind of a sniper shooter now.
Now, Memphis wants to keep him. And, heck, Detroit needs a point guard. So, I mean, is Jalen Brunson for sure going to Detroit? Detroit has cap space. Maybe that's the logical move.
But, like, to your point, let's say it was, so forget about replacing D'Lo 1-for-1, right? And again, how you'd make this work, I don't know. But if it was, you get rid of D'Lo and Tyus Jones comes in, but then you also have money for a big man that can help you rebound. And, you know, when Cat gets into foul trouble, you're not just leaning on, you know, I guess, small forwards to pick up the rebounding slack, right?
Well, I mean, and that's one knock on Gupta, by the way, if we want to go back to the trade deadline, as this series now has played out, a lot of us said, hey, you needed to do something. Now, I wasn't on board with trading Beasley for Josh Richardson and Aaron Nesmith to Boston, but, like, why couldn't you complete that Montrezl Harrell trade?
Yeah.
You know, Washington sent him to Charlotte. What fell through last second? At one point, I'm telling you, I said this at the time on a scoop session, but I'll reiterate it now. Like, at one point, the Wolves thought they were really making legit progress to bring in Montrezl Harrell. Yeah. Now, heck, do they win Game 5 if Montrezl Harrell is here? We can debate that. Maybe they don't. But Gupta didn't do anything at the deadline.
Yeah. Is he gonna get a full-time president of basketball operations job by just not playing a hand of poker? He's sitting at the poker table.
But here's the comeback. There's sanity there. Heck, they're holding hands singing Kumbaya. There's been so much drama at Mayo Clinic Square going back so many years.
Yeah, that's true.
It's drama-free. He has a lot to do with that. I think the Beverly extension, not having to pay him 2 years out, getting him at 1 year, maybe he had to go a little bit higher at $13 million, but I think that was a good move. I think bringing back Greg Monroe was a good move, but I thought Greg Monroe, like, maybe Greg Monroe should have played a little bit in Game 5 or somewhere in this series.
He played a minute in one of the games, I think.
Yeah.
So part of the problem here, too, though.
But I mean, there's not a whole lot to base. Like, you know, you look at the moves that Gupta's made, there's not a whole lot there, right? Yeah. So it's hard to really evaluate him.
Yeah.
So
he's a good dude, though. I'll tell you that much. Really good dude.
I think part of the problem that we've seen arise, though, is it's not necessarily just the defeats, those hurt, but it's also what we've learned about people as well. On Finch, he's not as good in game as I thought he was going to be. Like, I think that he is a good offensive mind, and I think he does, and I like his personality, but there definitely have been pressure points in this series where he has pulled some Zim-like moves of questionable non-timeouts, things like that. The other thing is, and I'm wondering about this one, is when it comes to Karl, like, who is the real Karl going to be in crunch time? Because, like, we have seen the array of possibilities in these 5 games thus far. We've seen terrible Karl, we've seen petulant Karl, we've seen good Karl. And at some point in time, he's going to be at an age where we can't say, well, he's still inexperienced in playoffs or he's still young. Like, at some point in time, we've got to pick a path. Yeah, we've got to pick a path here.
Yeah, I mean, this is year 7.
Right.
The time is now.
That's the most interesting thing about this playoff to me, though, is what are we learning about people so that as this progresses now, next time around, it can be far more honed, because that's what we have not seen, consistency.
Well, I mean, on Karl, you give him that supermax this summer. Undoubtedly, he is making an all-NBA team. I was talking to Windy the other day, Brian Windhorst. He voted for Cat on his second team. He's convinced, and he's friends with many of the voters. Cat is making one of these all-NBA teams. I don't know if it's the first. Well, he won't be on the first team, but
could be second or third.
Second or third team. He's making one. It doesn't matter which one. He can make the third team, and he is Supermax eligible. So undoubtedly, you are going to give Cat that Supermax this summer. You can come to some sort of conclusion, Judd, later on. It could be year 8, year 9. You can always trade Cat. Barring some sort of catastrophic injury, you can move him. Even at Supermax money, you could trade Karl-Anthony Towns if you had to in a year or two. So I think in that regard, it's status quo. I think D'Lo is the elephant in the room. That is the big question to answer. Do you want D'Lo here next year? Let's not forget, that was Gerson's guy. I'm not convinced that was ever Gupta's guy or anybody else in the front office. That was Gerson's guy. So that to me is the elephant in the room. What happens with D'Angelo Russell?
One thing to put into context with Cat here too, and he is a unicorn of a talent, but he has a 10-cent maturity side of his brain more often than not. And it gets him into trouble in these games. It gets him into trouble emotionally with refs, everything. But for people that still say, well, it's a learning experience and he's young and this and that. Cat is 1 year younger right now than KG was in the 2003-2004 season. And what did people think about KG by 2003? Now, of course, KG had gone to the playoffs 6 times or whatever, 7 times. But KG was dragging, I would argue, in some ways even worse collections of talent in some of those years. His sidekicks were Terrell Brandon, Wally Zerbiak, Anthony Peeler up until that 03-04 season.
Well, yeah, up until 03-04.
It's not
I think lesser talent for sure.
Yeah. And so what did we think? Age 26, age 27 KG, we thought, boy, this guy's battle-tested, right? It's his time to break through. So I don't want to use youth or inexperience as an excuse here. Dude, you've been in the league for 7 years, and yeah, you don't have the playoff experience the KG does. Some of that's your fault because you haven't been able to rise up and play the defense that KG plays.
Is that an unfair comparison, though?
Oh, of course, because KG is one of the greatest players of all time.
He's in a different stratosphere.
But to me, that is sort of the bar that we know. I'm not saying that he has to be KG at some point. I'm just saying you can't say, oh, he's inexperienced and he needs to go through this. It is time right now. Go put your fingerprint on a Game 6 win at home and see what happens in Game 7. That's what I'm saying here. I don't think it's enough to say, well, let's just pat these guys on the head and say, good try, and maybe get some more experience next year. You're 26, 27 years old. You're being paid $35 million a year. Let's do it.
That's fair.
Go win a Game 6 at home.
On the experience part of things, how experienced is Memphis?
Not very.
They're not.
Right? Their superstars are younger than the Wolves superstars, right? John Morant doesn't have more experience than Cat in the playoffs or D'Lo in the playoffs, right?
Yet they make these 2 monster comebacks.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Here's the thing.
It's frustrating.
This guy,
Bobblehead.
Cat, needs to grow up because this guy, KG, did.
So they've been in contact.
That's the thing.
They still have a relationship, and they've talked in the playoffs, right? Or before the playoffs?
Right now.
Bobbleheads.
What do you think KG is saying to Cat? What do you think KG is saying to Cat? Now, Cat has not posted on social media.
Bleep, bleep,
Well, yeah.
bleep, bleep.
But
Cat's logged off social media, so he's definitely, somewhat focused. That's good.
But the thing with Cat that drives us all, I think, crazy is this. Because KG melted down too, but he did it constructively because he was pissed off, and we like that. That's called fire. I think the thing that drives you nuts as a sports fan in watching Cat is to have that immense talent and to whine and pout and cry as much as Cat does in game. I think that's what drives you nuts. I think if Cat showed fire consistently, we would all say, oh, look at him. He's harnessing the anger. Or he's trying to do, he's trying to use it constructively. But when you get up, again, the mic, I think it was in the third quarter in Game 5, picked it up. Karl was doing something. He got hit. He, of course, falls down because he loves to demonstrate he got hit. And you can hear him shriek, that's a foul. Dude, it's a playoff game. Get up, get down the floor, and go get the ball back. That's a foul. Now, I would have had more respect if he said that's an MF foul.
What?
That's
ridiculous.
I would have had more respect if he had
so
said
if he
that's
swears you respect it, but if he doesn't, he's a
Judd's already started pounding the Surleys.
I don't respect the 5th grade. That's a foul. Call the foul.
Well, no, I think what's happening is he is the basketball player that cried wolf, pun intended.
Yes.
You know, like how many times can these human being referees be berated by a player that's never won anything? Like, you want to talk about lack of self-awareness, dude. I get that you might be getting screwed on some of these calls, and I actually think Anthony Edwards gets screwed on more calls than Cat does, because how often does he get called, like getting smoked in the paint when he goes up for a layup? He never gets calls. Get up, go play. It sounds stupid, and I wish it wasn't this way, but in some ways, like you earn your credibility and earn your trip to the free throw line by showing a little bit more respect to those officials. And again, should it be that way? Probably not, but they're human beings, and you have to work the system.
Now, let me give you another comeback. Luka Doncic in Dallas complained to the referees more than Cat.
It's true.
Now, he's won at a slightly higher level, but not significantly higher level than Cat. Yet we don't hear a lot of chatter about that.
Yeah, but
he's
I would
also
tell him
just
to
like,
cool it too.
I think Luka, though, so Luka, he's better than Cat. He's a better player than Cat. And there's just something very alpha about his personality that translates to late in games. Like he can still be complaining to officials, but not completely lose his cool and get fouled out of a game or get taken out of a game, right? So he almost has the ability to compartmentalize bitching at refs, but still dominating a game. Cat gets so caught up in all these external things that are, and now the last 2 games he's been much better, and he's been able to play through some of it, and he's bounced back very nicely from game 3. But he gets taken out of games mentally so easily. And the Clipper strategy in the play-in game, you could see that from 2 weeks away, right? They're going to run double teams at him. They're going to get physical with him. They're going to get him into foul trouble. He's going to freak out, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, don't you think that's what we see tomorrow night? Like late in game 5, Dylan Brooks was guarding Cat. Does Memphis continue to go small?
Yeah.
And
get him out?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we may see tomorrow
think
night.
About this too. I know that they ultimately lost the game either way, but he was this close for the YouTube audience to a 4th foul with like 9 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter because he lowered his shoulder. I thought it was a charge. I
thought it was a charge too.
Wow, they're overturning this. This is great. The refs love the Wolves. Crazy.
And that's a credit to Finchie, Judley, in game. Yeah. He's been okay with his challenges, at least recently.
His challenges have been his timeouts.
And he's still a really good coach when it comes to drawing up plays out of timeouts. I mean, I get it. There's a million ways to evaluate a coach in game, but there are some strong characteristics there.
The Ant 3 and that play and that pass from J-Mac were phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great play. That was... On Luka, though, here's my thing. I would tell him to cool it, too. I don't think it helps. I don't think the constant whining, moaning, and complaining and the woe is me.
Yeah.
At least with Pat Bev, he complains, but he goes and addresses it. It's not this Cat's thing is, and Luka
passive aggressive.
The same thing, and it drives me nuts, though. They are putting on a show for the cameras and the fans. Like the flailing of the arms, how could you not call that? If you got a problem with it, go talk to the official at least. Yep. Don't make it so that, oh, look, Carl's getting screwed. And then the fans started with ref, you suck, which is a stupid chant. And then the whole thing is, these people are human. The refs get their backs up about this because it's a theatrical show.
Yeah, you got to work the system. You got to work the system.
I will be curious, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, to find out who is officiating tomorrow night's game. Looking at the officials for tonight, I don't see Scott Foster listed.
Give me Ed Malloy.
I don't see Ed Malloy listed.
Come on. You know what?
Do we get at least one of those tomorrow night, Malloy or Foster?
I don't think we've gotten Ed since the play-in game. So my guess is we get a heat.
Well, that really wasn't that long ago, but you're right.
No, but I'm saying 5 games of this series, no Ed, and the league loves Ed.
No Ed.
No Ed.
I need some Ed.
I'm just telling you, I would not be shocked if we have one
Everybody
of
loves
those
Ed.
guys here
Ed.
tomorrow.
What does everybody want?
Ed.
Ed, you're great. Ed, you're great.
All right, Doogie, give us some rapid fire scoops here. It can be anything. If you got Viking stuff, the draft is tonight.
Yeah, so I told Judd on Tuesday that my strong sense going back many days, I mentioned it on a Scoop podcast, my own podcast, going back a week, 2 weeks, that Derek Stingley Jr. is unlikely to be on the board at pick 12, the cornerback from LSU. But I told Judd, somebody I trust greatly in the league texted me and said, I actually think Stingley Jr. is going to be there. Who is going to take him above 12? Well, guess what? The update. That individual texted me this morning. You are right. So Derek Stingley Jr. is not going to be there at 12. But
He might go 3.
do I think if he somehow is there at 12 that the Vikings sprint to the podium? Yes. They have the book on him. I am positive. Like, I feel pretty confident about that. There's not a whole lot to be confident about. Like in years past, Phil, we knew Garrett Bradbury. We knew Jeff Gladney. We knew last year offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily Darisaw. We thought maybe the USC kid, but there was a strong sense offensive lineman. We just don't know. But based on Kwesi's history in Cleveland, Andrew Berry drafting all these young guys, like I think we can cross, for example, Jermaine Johnson II, Eden Prairie High School's own, off the list. He's 23 or 24. Boye Mafe, the former Gopher, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Now, maybe some of these bets are off if the Vikings move back into the 20s. Let's say they go 12 to 20 or heck 12 to 29. Some of these bets are off. But like, I think it makes logical sense that they go with a young player at 12. Kyle Hamilton, does he get to 12? I guess I will be surprised if he gets to 12 and they pass on him, even though it's not a position of need. But he's got some hybrid to him. He's not just your traditional safety. But yeah, I'm fascinated to see what takes place. I caught up with Jordan Reed, I think somebody we all know, who's now on ESPN. Great guy, great information. His point of McDuffie is the short arms. Goes back to Brandon Clark. That you look at Kwesi, the analytical background, history in Cleveland, that even though a lot of these mocks have McDuffie, the cornerback from Washington, landing here, that he doesn't have those 30-inch arms that you like with a cornerback. But can I see them going cornerback in the first round? I can. Maybe it's the Clemson kid. Maybe it's the Florida kid after you move back. Judd did ask me at the end of our podcast on Tuesday, all right, Dukes, go on the record with a prediction. I said, you know what? I think they ultimately find a trade partner, that they move backwards. But I'm not even necessarily ruling out a move up. There's been some dialogue.
I want a mock.
Does Gardner fall? Does Stingley fall a little bit where they move up? Walker, the defensive end from Georgia, can they get up to 6? Can they get up to 8? I have been told as of now, no dialogue with Seattle at 9. But they have talked to the Jets, who have picked 10.
Kayvon Thibodeau fell in one of the. So we did the Kuiper McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, Peter Schrager, Mount Rushmore of final mocks this morning on Purple Daily. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them had Kayvon Thibodeau falling to the Vikings. So if it, let's say Kayvon Thibodeau falls, and let's say there's a run on receivers or a couple quarterbacks or something, and some of these other players fall. If it's you, let's say Kayvon is there, Kyle Hamilton is there. I don't think there's a scenario where those guys and Stingley would be there, but let's say it's like, Kayvon or Kyle Hamilton. Are you taking the edge? Are you taking the safety?
I'm taking the safety.
Okay.
I think his floor is pretty high. I think his ceiling is incredibly high.
Yeah.
Character A+ is my understanding. He checks so many boxes. Maybe the safest player in this draft. Safer than any of these offensive linemen, safer than even Hutchinson, that Kyle Hamilton is the safest pick. 21 years old. Go back and watch the Notre Dame-Florida State game from early September. And I won't claim to be an expert, but, talking to Rick Spielman, who was at that Florida State-Notre Dame game, who's got his friends in South Bend. We know how much he loved to draft Notre Dame guys. So Spielman on down, I've heard from too many people, Kyle Hamilton, incredibly safe pick.
Yeah.
So I think I would go with the safe pick, the kid that's got a chance to be a superstar.
Love it.
And not that the Oregon kid doesn't, but that there's a safer bet on the Notre Dame kid becoming a superstar.
Great stuff, Doogie. Great stuff.
Reckless speculation.
Go for basketball. They have 3 scholarships now to use. Abdoulaye Thiam enters the portal yesterday. The deadline to enter the portal is May 1st, so this weekend. So there is a player on the Gophers that finally entered the portal. Do not look for Ben Johnson to use all 3 scholarships, but he is on the lookout for a starting 2 guard.
Okay.
They have their starting point guard in Cooper. They have their starting front court, Battle, Fox, Garcia. They need a starting 2. That is the number one goal right now.
Boom. All right, there he is. Inside information about your favorite Minnesota sports teams. Darren Doogie Wolfson, 5 Eyewitness News, and the Scoop Podcast. Happy draft day, Doogs.
Happy draft
Enjoy
day
it tonight.
Yes.
And hopefully the Wolves can get you a little trip to Memphis for some Memphis barbecue.
Yeah, I don't know. Drugie's got baseball. I'm stuck in like the middle. Like it would be a great trip. There's a part of me that says it's such a cluster bleep that.
Could you set up a little camera? You know, like could you just like behind the home plate fence? Judd, we're gonna need you to coach Drugie's baseball team. Yeah. Actually,
you know what? Then we're bunting. We're gonna steal bases. We're
going back
squatting.
To
double switches.
We're squatting.
Some double switches.
No leg out.
It should be. You
big time shifting. Yeah. All right, boys. Happy draft day. Enjoy.
All right, that's Darren Doogie Wolfson. All right, we're gonna.
Reckless speculation.
By the way, all of that speculation presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They are preaching Safe Driving Awareness Month, which should really be every month, but especially in April. Distracted Driving Awareness Month is upon us. So your friends at Federated ask to please make it home safely today. It's the one thing we can control. It's just like paying attention on the roads, making sure that you're not mainlining Twitter while you're driving. Just be safe. You can find out more about how to be a better driver at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, let's take a pause here. We got to talk about the hottest team in the Twin Cities and a little old tweets exposed action. Mackie and Judd.